least, offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach Dave Patenaude. We'll go ahead and open it right up for questions for Coach Patenaude, beginning with Rod McKenzie from 247 Sports.
Hey, Dave. Last time we were together, we were talking about how good the defensive ends were at Pitt. But this coming weekend, you face another duo that are equally as good. What do you see from those two guys?
Yeah, I mean, week after week in this league, it's kind of been the same story, right? I mean, those defensive ends are really good players. These two guys are a little bit different. They're really active. The Rumpf kid just, they move him around in so many different spots. They give him so many different things to do. So you have to be able to account for him. They get down into some 30 looks where he becomes like a linebacker. He moves around. That's one of their big things to try to, create some different looks for us offensively. And then, 51 gave us fits last year. He's, very violent coming off the edge. He's got a great first step. So you got to be aware of those guys in the pass. That definitely is the strength of their defense. I think those two defensive ends create a lot of havoc, and they can rush four guys. Like we've talked about in the past. If you could get pressure with four guys and you don't have to blitz, that's a big advantage for you. And that's kind of what they do. They'll mix the blitz in, but they will get the pressure that they're looking for with four guys, kind of twisting, moving guys, and then trying to win the one-on-one battle. So, those guys are going to have to be accounted for. And again, you have to stay out of third and long, right? If they could pin their ears back and just come after you, that's really where they're making their hay. So we have to do a really good job on first and second down to get into some shorter third downs, that third downs and makeables, and not have to stand back there and hold the pocket.
Next question comes from Kelly Quinlan from Rivals.
Hey, Dave. I was curious about Jeff Sims and his development, and then also where your other two Qs stand now, obviously with James transferring out, just kind of where everyone stands developmentally right now.
Well, I mean, it's been a little frustrating over the last few weeks, right, that we haven't had an opportunity to play, but in retrospect, it's been great for our quarterback development, and Jeff's development overall has been, substantially better than where he was even, a month ago. So he's gotten an ample amount of reps, which has been tremendous for him. We've been able to, install a few different things that have been in the playbook that we haven't run a whole lot of. So a few new wrinkles there that were actually in like 3 weeks ago, but that we didn't get to run. So we've been able to run a lot of the same plays that we had been preparing over the last 3 weeks. And so that familiarity, I think, has been really good for him. And being able to see a bunch of different things. We went against our defense a bunch and had good speed work. And then this week we kind of got back into more Duke looks. So he just looks more comfortable. He's just more comfortable in the pocket, understanding where to go with the ball. And, hopefully that plays out well Saturday night. And then the other guys have been good. I mean, they've gotten good work. Again, when you are almost back in an OTA type of mentality, then you're getting a lot of work versus a lot of different things, and you're working on your base stuff that is really critical for the backup guys to be able to get in there and just run your base things and get the timing with the wideouts down and that type of thing. So, as good as we've made the situation about as good as it could possibly be over the last 3-4 weeks for the quarterbacks, and where we are at that position with the youth at that position, every one of those reps counts. Every time we can throw a skelly, every time we can go against our defense, it's just critical in their development, being such a young group. So, I'm actually really happy with what's happened over the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Next question comes from Ken Segura from the AJC.
Hey, Dave. I was wondering, as you've had this time off, and I'm sure you've taken it to kind of look at what you're doing and what you can better at, what's one thing that you feel like, we're actually doing this pretty well, and what's something else that maybe over these last 4 games that you're saying we're –
Well, we got to protect the ball, right? I mean, and that's been a critical thing. I think hopefully we don't have too much rust on us when we go out there. Saturday night, but I think that the whole snap issue that we were having earlier in the season has kind of worked itself out. We did a couple things to change those things up going into Notre Dame, and haven't had really any issues, snap-wise over the last few weeks. When you really look at it, those were the two biggest things that kept, kind of biting us. We would have a snap infraction, we'd get down in there on a red zone and we'd be rolling, and then we'd have a snap infraction and we'd go back and that type of thing. Or we would have some, whether they were ill-advised throws or a misprotection or, some football fluky thing when the ball gets batted up in the air, we just gave the ball away too much. So that's been a concentration. We've played some really, really good defenses those last 3 games. And I think we learned a lot about where we are. But I think we got to get back to playing with pace, being really able to push the tempo as we did, coming out of the gate those first 4 games. I thought we played with good tempo. But you can only play with good tempo if you're moving the ball, you're gaining first downs, you have a nice mix of your runs and your throws and your screens and all of that type of thing. And then being able to get into, a few different looks, a few different wrinkles that you get to at this point in the season where you kind of have your base stuff down and now you can start building some layers into your game plan based on those things. So I'm really excited about it. I mean, our guys are stoked up to play. I mean, there's no football fatigue at all. I mean, we had a great practice today. The guys are spirited. Thankful that we're having the opportunity to be able to do this. And, never once did we look at this over the last few weeks and say, oh, woe is me, we're not playing. It was a little, all right, here we go again type of deal. But then, we kind of got back to it and got our work in and basically said, listen, let's get healthy and let's get some things ironed out. Let's put a few new wrinkles in and let's have a great run here over the last 4 weeks. So I think the kids are really excited to play. I know I am.
Next question from Ken Segura from the AJC.
You mentioned the quarterbacks and James. I'm curious, kind of what was your reaction? I'm sure you were sad to see him go, about him, deciding to move on.
Yeah, the football in this day and age is so different, and with the availability of the portal and guys being able to make decisions on their careers a little bit easier really than it ever has been, right, with your ability to get in the portal and transfer and that type of thing. And, I think that each guy has their own individual plan, their own individual reasons for either staying or moving, and some of them are football related, some are school, some are, family related. Guys move back home because, they have family issues going on or, whatever's not going right in football. So everybody has their individual plan. I love James. I mean, he was my guy. We went through a lot of bumps and bruises last year. And, James just played Jeff just played a little bit better in the beginning of the year, and James, kind of fell into that backup role, and he did a good job. There was never one time where he was negative or pouting or, doing anything that was detrimental to our offense or the other guys in the room. He was a great support. He's got a great personality. He's got a great spirit to him, but I think at the end of the day, he wants to play, he wants to be that dude. And it's tough, right? I mean, he got a lot of burn last year, right? He was the guy, and he got a lot of playing time, and, he grew tremendously as a player, and, he wasn't playing as much as he would like. So, that's always a tough thing, but I think he's handled it awesome, and, we'll do anything that we can to help him find a new spot.
Another question from Rod McKenzie.
Hey, Dave, you're talking about getting healthy. One person that comes to mind is Jordan Mason. Has this time allowed him to maybe get back to where he was prior?
Oh, yeah, he looks like his old self. The last couple weeks, he's been able to put his foot in the ground and really roll. I'm really excited to see what he does Saturday night. I think he's got a little fire in his belly. And, I think, this type of running game and downhill running game against these fronts, I think, he's excited to touch the ball and he's 100% healthy. So it was funny. We were watching the game from last year, right? Because now you're going back and watching all of last year's games, and he really ran well, and he ran a lot of dudes over in that game. So I said, listen, man, just do exactly what you did, last year against these guys, and we're going to be in great shape. I think he's excited to go.
For a couple more, we'll start with one from Patrick Canaro from Ramblin' Sports.
Good morning, Coach. I was going to piggyback on that question from Rod about Jordan Mason, ask about your stable of running backs. This might really be the first game you've had all guys in there ready to go and healthy. And I'm always interested to know about throwing them out of the backfield. Are they all good with that? Is that a big part of your play?
Moving them out of the backfield, you're saying? I missed the end of it. Oh, yeah. I mean, a lot of that is going to be always dictated by what the defense does, right? And but they're all capable of moving in and out of the backfield, and they all have really good hands. And I think that you could be a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more multiple when you have those guys to be able to mix and match and try to find the matchups, right? I mean, that's really the key when you have the ability to kind of bring guys in and out of the game and really try to find the matchups that benefit you against whoever you're playing defensively. And if you could get those guys isolated on certain guys in the pass game, that's as good as being able to throw the ball up outside. I mean, Duke is going to play a ton of man coverage, and they're gonna dare you to throw the ball over their head, and they're gonna say, listen, you're not gonna throw it 25 times down the field and try to make plays. And so they're gonna gang up in the run game, so you got to be able to mix guys in and out, and you got to be able to move the running backs in and out. So the great thing with all of those guys is they've really become very, very good receivers, and they understand the pass game so much better. Like even at the end of last year, they kind of understood where they fit into the piece of the run game, the pass game, but not necessarily all the routes and the adjustments and that type of thing. And that's something that they spent a lot of time on in the beginning of this season, and really over the last 4 weeks have been able to really master some of those auxiliary pieces to the pass game. So that group of guys does give you the opportunity to have a different look for the defense.
Okay, we'll take one last call from the conference, one last question from the conference, and then one that was texted in, and we'll wrap up with the conference with Kelly Quinlan.
Hey, Dave. I was just curious about the wide receivers you have, for the most part, were recruited for a different system where they're playing one-on-one and kind of surprising people when the ball's thrown. And you don't necessarily have the burners on the outside that you would have. You have them at slot, obviously, but not at receiver. How much has that kind of hampered some of the stuff you want to do offensively, just not having maybe those speed guys on the outside that you would like to have? Because I know you even had guys like Avery you were trying to work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I think that's a little deceptive because Malachi Carter can roll. I mean, he's a sub 4.5 guy. So for a bigger guy, he can really roll and stretch the coverage. So he really presents some issues, I think, for guys down the field. And then Jalen Camp is probably a step slower than Malachi, but the benefit with Jalen is his body, right? He's a big, thick guy that has unbelievable ball skills and has an unbelievable sense of how to lean on somebody, kind of create just a little bit of room and win the 50-50 balls. I would say that, we've had a lot of track dudes over the years that can really roll, that are, 4.3 guys that can fly, and they don't have any sense of how to frame a ball or how to lean on a guy or, what that, top of the stem piece is, to be able to go up and get those 50-50 balls. So, Camp has done a great job with that, and Adonica Sanders ran by him twice last year for big plays. So, I think maybe on a clock, those guys, aren't 4.3, 4.4 fast, but in game speed, I think that they present issues. And like I said, these guys are going to come up nose to nose, and they're going to play man coverage. So you're going to have to be able to soften them up, right? I mean, you're going to have to take some shots down the field. We started doing that, and all the while making sure that you protect, because you're going to be checking the ball down a lot if the if the D line gets put in one-on-one situations, so you got to be smart about when you're taking your shots. But we're certainly going to have to put the ball down the field against these guys. Most of the teams that they've played have tried to do it, and they've had mixed success with it.
Okay. The final question, Coach, was one that was texted in, and I know you've talked a lot about it over the course of the season, but the true freshmen that are playing on offense, particularly Jeff and Jameer and Jordan, and maybe any others. But if you could talk about how you feel about their development at this point in the season, and this past 3 weeks where we haven't had a game, and how much that has benefited.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the big three, right? Those three guys that have been getting all the accolades and all the burn, for the whole year have really represented themselves really, really well, and will continue to get better. I mean, I think, as these guys grow in the program, they will become household names for Tech fans. And the one guy that's gotten a bunch of reps lately because of having some guys dinged up at wide receiver is Nate McCollum, and he played 45 plays against Notre Dame. He had 1- the whole time. Really understands what he's doing. Is a really fluid athlete, very good speed, tough kid. So he'll get some significant burn on Saturday night, and this is a good group of dudes. Now, we had a couple of the outside receivers get banged up, so they wouldn't be available, and the freshman O-line has developed well. Billy Ward, our tight end, is going to be a very, very good player. So I really like what this group of young guys is doing. Obviously, Jeff and Jameer kind of get all of the the headlines, and rightly so. I mean, they're playing at a high level as freshmen in a very difficult league, under very difficult circumstances. But I think that this group is a really good group, and as they grow, I think will be the foundation, moving forward for a really strong program. So we're excited about that, and to get elite dudes at those positions, especially at Q, right? I mean, we've had off days here over the last 3 weeks, right? So I've had actually an opportunity to watch more football than I ever have during the year, whether it be NCAA or NFL, and teams that have strong quarterback play, are going to be successful. So I think as Jeff continues to grow and mature, I think the future is really bright. So we're excited.